education, entertainment, and business. I'd like to introduce your moderator, Mr. SHABAN. And if the rest of the panelists wouldn't mind joining.
Thank you. Thank you and welcome to our panel. So I'm SHAAME, founder of Everdreamsoft and the host of your panel today. And we're going to explore a little bit what's Metaverse or what it means in the different fields. And I'm happy to invite our panelists to join me on stage.
I think some of us have COVID.
Where are they all already?
So there's the best of us. Welcome.
Thank you.
So before we start, could you quickly introduce yourselves for the audience, starting from Ellie?
Yeah, of course. Hi there. My name is Ali and I'm working for Reality, the Metaverse events company. So we're actually live on Decentraland today for the Metaverse Summit, if you haven't checked it out. And yeah.
I'm a big fan of Realty, actually. I'm an investor, so you should absolutely check it out. I'm Benjamin. I'm the CEO, co-founder of Darewise, a gaming studio developing a gaming metaverse. We're headquartered in Paris, recently acquired by Animoca Brands. We're over 100 people now, developing a new destination in the metaverse called Life Beyond that I invite you to check out, playlifebeyond.com. It's in open alpha right now.
Hello. Yeah, it works. So I'm not Boris. Boris couldn't make it today. My name is Anne-Claire. I'm the CEO of the company of Mainboat, and we are building a metaverse on education.
Great. So let's jump on the subject. First, I wanted to ask you, Ellie, what's the metaverse for you, and from a business perspective?
Yeah, so that's a great question. From a business perspective, the way that I see the metaverse is a little bit like a new form of social media where, you see that brands are able to interact with people on social media. You can you can comment, you can run some contests. So it's a kind of top-down approach to interacting with your consumer. And I see the metaverse as a much more kind of participative way of doing that. And not seeing just the consumer as kind of a passive recipient of the content, but actually as a creator and a contributor to the brand's image, to the brand's activities. And that's kind of how I see the evolution is, seeing social media and now seeing the metaverse with those immersive worlds and everything it means in terms of, the brands and how they can interact with people, with us. And we see it today, we have this conference going, there's POAPs being distributed, there's merch, there's the ability to put, what company you're working for on top of your avatar. So we can see just a lot more features, a lot more ways, gamified ways, to interact with audiences. And that for me is, marketing department, communications department. So that's really where I see it today. Not yet as a kind of selling point. I think when a brand enters the metaverse, I think it's important to enter humbly and with gifts, if that makes sense. I think some of the brands that try to just come in and sell have not had a very positive image. But I'm very curious to see how that will shift and how, a new consumer experience, a new buyer experience will emerge. And yeah, that's my humble view.
Thank you. And same question for you, Anne. But from the education perspective, what are the opportunities?
It's a great opportunity to learn in a more efficient way, Metaverse. And if you look at what happened and with Web 1, so we were in a one-way communication style, very lecture-based way of teaching. With Web 2, we started with interaction, with exchanges. MOOC appeared. and people could learn not only from their teachers, but also from other students, from classmates. And then Web3 is just a step up. It is a step up because with Web3, you can explore things, you can learn, you can also craft your own contents and make it easier to learn to others. What I mean is that, in fact, you have three dynamics here. You have, with education, you have one dynamic that is about playing, the other one is about action, and the third one is about transmission. So with the first one, obviously, it's easier, you know, when you're in the flow to learn things. And once you play and once you enjoy what you're doing, you don't notice that you're learning a lot and you're catching all the elements. The second element is that it's with the action. You learn by doing things. It's the best way, you know, to get the knowledge, to make sure that it sticks. And you can do that by experimenting things. And then the third element is transmission. So with transmission, because you gain the confidence with the action and with the gamification, you can then get incentivized to build your own content. You create your own content and you can teach. You know, I used to have a professor, and he used to tell me, well, Anne-Claire, if you want to know really something, then go and teach it, because you need to master it. And if you want to transmit the knowledge to other people, then you better be good at it. You better be an expert, be a master on the subject, but also you need to find the way to make it interesting for people to get what you want to transmit. So yeah, that's what it is for me.
Thank you. And I see you brought a little cute thing.
My buddy, the Winky.
So for you, Benjamin, the same question, and especially in the game industry, what Metaverse will change?
So maybe the first thing to answer your question is how we define the metaverse in the gaming space. And for us, the metaverse is really more of it's a concept of it's a collection of destinations. So there are multiple destinations, and each game can become one of them. And in this collection of destination, you as an individual, you have an existence in this world, in this digital world, through your avatar. And through your avatar, you start experiencing a meaningful existence, a meaningful life through social connection, economic relationship, and of course, fun and gameplay. But what is important is that I don't think we define the metaverse as like one specific location, but more this network of destinations where you will be traveling using your avatar, using multiple avatars. And so the opportunity, of course, is very big, because we've been experiencing, you know, gaming world and identities in the gaming world and being an individual in this gaming world for a long time. It started back then, way before you guys think, so even before like the World of Warcraft and stuff like that. But we had multi-user dungeons that were just text-based dungeons 20, 30 years ago. So this type of experience has been running for a long time, where you are in a virtual world, you're in a digital space, playing with other people. But the interesting thing now is that we're going a step further, where you can really turn these communities into societies, because you have a more advanced social layer, a more advanced economic layer, to a point where this existence become really meaningful. And this is where the part that I think I will keep touching on.
Perfect. That leads to actually one important question. So you mentioned about the multiplicity of experience of worlds, and my next question is, Facebook, for example, they hijacked the word metaverse, and so do you think metaverses will be centralized, or they will be decentralized, or maybe they will be both? What's your opinion? And I want to ask Ellie first your opinion on that.
Well, I think there's today you have metaverses running on crypto, metaverses running not on crypto, photorealistic metaverses, gaming metaverses. There's just so much, and I think it's all part of the metaverse. And if you ask 100 people what is the metaverse, you'd probably get 50 different answers. And I think that it's important to respect all those opinions. Obviously, for me personally, I dream of an open, decentralized metaverse running on crypto, but I think we need to make space for, other opinions. Meta can try to hijack the word, but they can't really hijack the metaverse. You can't hijack that. It comes from gaming, and it's evolving into surgery and so many education, so many different things. I think for some things it would be appropriate to have a closed metaverse, a centralized one, but for other things it wouldn't. So I think it really depends on who you ask and how you see, and I think you really need to make your own opinion as to what metaverses you want to hang out in. For me, the word metaverse is like the word internet. Do you think there's just so much, so many different pages, so many different worlds to explore, and I haven't even scratched the surface of what it is. And I think today, if someone says, oh, I have the definition of the metaverse, it's like, well, you're a liar, because we don't have that.
Yeah, and if I compare, because Microsoft, they, at the beginning of internet, they say internet will never work because it's so open, and they built their Microsoft network, and they thought that will be useful for company. But in the end, it didn't happen. So Benjamin, so you mentioned the diversity. So do you think it will extrinsically be open, or this will still be some closed garden, open garden?
I think the great thing about this this new wave is to not be too binary, binary and to be too looking for black and white answers. What is really driving a lot of the forces right now is to experiment, to have a huge diversity of experiences, of solutions, of directions. So to answer your question, I think we'll have both, because the decentralization is fabulous when you're when you can handle it. It's first, a lot of people are claiming to be decentralized, and they're not really, and they're right not to be, because it takes time to get there, to get to a fully decentralized organization where you can totally give away the whole control of the decisions. Takes some time. You need to reach a certain level of maturity, and it's still not accessible to a lot of people. And even if I picture myself in the future, I think that we will need some centralized experiences. We'll need some centralized part of this big world, this big metaverse, where some operators will operate in a very centralized way. I don't think my mom will ever navigate in a decentralized space. It will be too wild and scary for her.
And you, Anne, are you going to build on Facebook Meta, or are you a believer of decentralization?
I'm more a believer of decentralization. So we have lens in other metaverse, and the full idea is to get a hub everywhere to be able to offer this huge proposition, to switch from one metaverse to the other. So I'm a strong believer in a decentralized metaverse.
So I will follow back with this specifically. So if you're a believer of open metaverse and all what it brings, my question is, how do we protect in a decentralized world, like children, for example, if we're talking about education, how do we ensure metaverse can be a safe place if there is no protected garden?
So that's a really good question, because honestly, it is paramount, and And actually, I'm still considering the answer because I don't have it yet. But to tell you the truth and to be completely transparent, what we've been doing so far is that we sanctuarized our metaverse for kids, because it's true that you have two main issues there. You have one that you don't want unwanted access to payment, first thing, and the second thing, you don't want inappropriate content, right? So for the first thing, what we've been doing at Mainbot in our Winkiverse is that we have a space for kids that is blockchain free, and that has parent control for this one. Then for the second issue, we're already working with a board of ethics with our robot that works with the tablet, and one of our partner is STRZELECKA, which is a content provider for kids, and we have this board of ethics. So with the curated content, we're sure that it is appropriate to kids.
And when we are talking about metaverse and content and creation that you all talked about, one of the big topic is interoperability, NFTs. So Benjamin, do you think all these different worlds will be like closed, or there will be some interoperability, and how?
I knew you would be talking about this, because everybody's obsessed with this. So my view on interoperability is not exactly the same as, I think there are several definitions. So if you're talking about taking your avatar and every item that you own in one world and navigating with them from one world to another, this, I think, will take a long time. We have no standardized right now of how we build these 3D assets. We use a lot of different technologies. Just the fact that there are two big gaming engines running, Unity and Unreal Engine, just this makes it extremely complicated, and to be honest, right now, completely impossible. So that fantasy, this one I don't believe in very much, or at least until we are able to align on a standard, and if we're running and if we're very decentralized, it's not going to happen very, very early. But for me, interoperability doesn't necessarily mean this. Interoperability can also be on the utility itself. If I own an asset somewhere, it's a form of identity, and that can give me a series of privileges. If you're on a Bored Ape, you might have access or a different type of access to a lot of other experiences out there. The connection can take so many different forms. Another good example is we, with Life Beyond, we're going to be in the sandbox, we're in Phantom Galaxies, we're going to be in Star Atlas. So we have a presence in these other worlds, and they will have in our world. So we are connected. It is informed in interoperability, but you will not just move with your spaceship from these different locations.
An embassy, you're building embassies in different metaverses.
And it connects with this idea that I was introducing at the beginning of the panel about destinations, having the metaverse being this kind of network of locations, of destinations where I am going to navigate and where I will have a different type of experience, but I would like to be able to find a form of connection between these things. Now, will it be, there are two important things. First, it can happen because it's permissionless, right? So I don't need to connect with Sandbox to be in this world. I can just buy a land and start creating my own content over there. But even if this happens, today what is fantastic in the Web3 space is the intention that we all have to work together. I see Adrien here from the Fabricant, for instance, and we did something really great with them, and we are hoping to keep doing more and more collaborations like that. And I think that's why I kind of very often go back to the same thing, which is, to me, the metaverse or even blockchain is not so much a technological revolution, it's more an ideological revolution where we completely we approach things completely differently, with a lot of pay-forward culture, you know, where we just want to build things together rather than being so protective of our own space.
So, being present in other spaces, permissionless, you mentioned. My question then, Ellie, is how do you protect intellectual property in decentralized places? How brands can be sure that their brand is not spoiled? Artists can be sure that their creation is not just copied somewhere else.
Ooh. Well, you know, I mean, you see even from like, look at Sandbox, right? All the partnerships they're signing. 1 second you're signing a partnership with, you know, Spider-Man, and then the next second you're signing a partnership with The Simpsons. And then you have those avatars who have, you know, Spider-Man official gear and The Simpsons official gear, and they're kind of together interacting, and it creates user-generated content that, you know, combines different brands that were not necessarily meaning to be combined. And we've seen, you know, everything that can happen with the copying, the IP rights. It's a huge mess right now. And, you know, I joke and I say, like, I think a lot of people are going to end up like in jail or with fines. You know what I mean? With some things I see, I'm like, whoa, this is a really cool idea, but you can't do that. And I think at some point, you know, it goes with the anonymity as well, right? We hide behind an avatar, we hide behind a crypto wallet. But at the end of the day, you know, there's laws that apply and there's laws to be followed, and we have to figure that out. And even like criminal laws, right? What if, for example, I go graffiti the house of Snoop Dogg in Sandbox? Is that like, you know, an offense? You know, is that wrong? Like, can I be legally condemned for that? I think there's a lot of legal questions. Oftentimes, technology is ahead of legislation. And I think that's what we're seeing now, but the legislator is just going to have to catch up, and it's going to be even harder given the fact that legislation is passed country by country. So what if something is kind of legal in one country and illegal in the other? All of a sudden you're in this world, you know, and what happens? So I think unfortunately for this one, there's more questions than answers that I can provide.
Yes, very new and difficult topic. You wanted to add something?
Yeah, I think one way for me to answer this question, because I've seen it happening recently with a big brand that was so upset because there were collections on OpenSea. And our answer was, be there, be present in this space. Start existing in this space, because as soon as you put a foot in it, you have the credit to become certified, you know. And you, for instance, if you go on OpenSea, you can get a certification. And as soon as you get this, all the other copycats, well, you have a direct line with OpenSea to remove them, for instance. So, see, that's where you see we're not completely decentralized, by the way. So I think that right now, if you're not there, you're wrong. And of course, it takes some time. And I'm talking, of course, if you have a big brand and that you start seeing people building stuff with your own IP, it means that there is an interest. You should find a way to be there.
Yeah, that's. So I'm sorry, that's my favorite topic, because I'm working on building a decentralized certification authority, and I'm happy that you mentioned that actually certification is centralized. And so the from the conversation, we understand that a lot of things are being built by not companies anymore, but community. Community, people. So how this will evolve, can we guarantee, and specifically for education, do we need to guide the creation, or is it completely free creation? Do we need a teacher or someone who foresee everything, or things will emerge from the bottom?
I think it's a bit of both, meaning that you need to evangelize people, because as you mentioned, it is truly a quest I would say, and it is something more philosophical Web3 than technological. The technology, I believe, will follow afterwards. So we need to evangelize and get people on board because it's really a highly powerful tool. But then we need also to give the means to the people. So it's also an education. This is our role, and we need to help them craft what they can do. We need to help them with the creation of content. Could be gaming, could be conferences, could be many means. But yes, we need to do a bit of both, I believe.
So, as you're all involved in building metaverses or metaverses, is there a secret sauce, or what is going to be the thing that successful company will do that old Web2 company don't understand yet? Benjamin, what's your secret sauce?
I guess we're trying to figure out the recipe, but one thing that is definitely something that we're experiencing very much and it's very current for us is that right now a lot of we see that DAO-wise we are hoping to operate Web3, but we're still operating very Web2. A very good example for me is that we're still breaking down the responsibilities in a very traditional way. But the reality is that everything starts from your community. And this is where all the successful projects that you've seen out there were extremely good at interacting with the community. Interacting is not doing an AMA, it's not doing a Twitter space, it's not just talking to your community, it's involving the community in the creation process. Something that I don't think we've done very well so far at DAO-wise, for instance, and we are trying to get better at this. And it's very difficult because when you're not native from this space, it's a stretch. It's a very painful stretch to accept that you're giving away a little bit of your vision, and you're focusing more on execution. You're going to focus on execution where you can really involve the community. So today, my learning, the takeaway that I have is involving the key factors of success would be community, and community that is involved in the creation process.
Some early discussion I got when I got involved in gaming in 2015 and community decentralization about gaming was a game is also a piece of art in a sense, and when you have to balance character, it cannot come from the community because everybody wants their character to be stronger, but they cannot find the right balance for a game to be good. So do you think the decentralized creation could bring a good games?
I think there's a difference between involving the community and outsourcing to the community, which is listening to your community, communicating with it, and again, not just being unilaterally communicating. You know, when you're just giving them updates, is different from saying, okay, now tell us what to do and we will do it. You know, this is very different, and this is the right balance to find, and this is why it's so difficult, and this is why you don't have, thousands of successful projects. You have a few ones, and these few ones, they were very good all the time at building a community. Whether you talk about Bored Ape or Proof Collective, the community behind and the relationship that they built with it was completely game changing. It didn't mean that you ask your community to build everything for you, but you have a very strong bond, and you entertain, you nurture it through real conversation where you get the feedback and you process this feedback.
Thank you. Very interesting. And I want to ask Ellie on this. As you know several metaverses. What is the secret sauce? Which one are going to succeed, and what are the secret sauce that?
Well, I mean, you see who I work for, right? I think the ones who are going to succeed are going to be the ones who are going to be able to provide high quality entertainment to their communities, right? At the end of the day, you know, we all know that something like, don't quote me on the numbers, but like 90% of the metaverse land is empty. You know, so I think right now, you know, we see a lot of people kind of buying land, but what are they doing on that land? Building buildings, what are they doing in those buildings? And I think, you know, it's really here to provide a space for activations, and you know, whether it be yoga lessons or concerts or whatever that may be, or gamified experiences. I think we have to go into the metaverse for a reason, because there's something cool going on, because there's something engaging going on. So I think the secret sauce is don't just build metaverses, but figure out, you know, what the hell we're going to be doing on there.
Yeah, we'll have to do that. Still a lot of work. And when we talk about metaverse for kids, for example, Roblox is very successful, which is not a Web3 project. Is metaverse for younger age, or I would say not pure gaming, also education? What are the interesting ones, and which one we need to follow, and what are the winning ingredients? Will Roblox, for example, be disrupted, or how you see it?
Or it will move towards metaverse, maybe. Sorry. I just want to go back to the previous questions that you had, because it's true that community is queen, but cash is king also. And here you're right that you have different emergent companies coming, even in the education space. But we'll see also in 2 years' time who stays. And there you need to be careful, because you have a community with players, so with kids, but you also have investors, and you have a, well, for us, we did an ICO last year, so more than 20 million raise, and here also with this community, we need to be careful. So we need to find ways to make them happy and to make it work with the kids. Meaning that today, for instance, we're selling lens, and the lens we sell, we need to be careful. So with the NFTs, how we want to sell it, if we want to do it with fiat, or if we want to use our Winkies. And there is a whole process here also that is very crucial for to get the cash.
Perfect, thank you. So I would like to ask the audience if there's question for our panelists. Do we have a...
Carolina Hedman from Sweden. I have a business metaverse named Connectum City Metaverse, and was surprised that you say that your mom is not going to jump into the metaverse, because all of my clients have more than 45 years old and they are working into the metaverse. Then my question is for everybody here is, do you think that the metaverse is only for younger people? What is happening with the other generation, and what you are thinking that the mature people are not ready for play and be fun into the metaverse? Thank you.
Is the question for me? Yes. So your question is, do I think that the target audience is younger people, right? Yeah. I absolutely don't believe that. I actually think that right now the entry barrier is big, and so I'm more thinking that the core target is the millennials rather than the Gen Z. Even though, of course, the social drive of the Gen Z is phenomenal, and we want to get there. But I think right now, and that's actually how we operate, we're focusing on millennial gamers because they are a more mature audience, also in terms of how they socially build. So they might be a bit less social in the traditional sense, like how we use this word now when we talk about content creation on social media platforms. But when it comes to building, and building through communities, and we've seen them running this for many years in massively multiplayer online games where they could create outstanding organizations that would actually really take them beyond entertainment. They would be running in this world, let's just take World of Warcraft. But the sophistication of the organization was really outstanding. So for now, I think that this combined with the barrier of running all of this on blockchain with cryptos and wallets and what it kind of carries, I think right now the audience, the core audience, should be a bit more mature than Gen Z. But I'm hoping that it will change.
Question on Ellie's reflection on the content more than the sizes makes me reflect on the times at this point. Like, how true is like first come best served, or is it gonna be somehow allowed to be a little late but with a great idea, or you gotta rush because time's running out? Like, what do you think about it?
So you're talking about FOMO a little bit here, right? Like, oh my God, I wasn't the first, but actually, I came a little bit later into crypto. I wasn't there at Bitcoin. I wasn't there at Ethereum. I started with NFTs. And what the people who were before me were saying is like, I have a fresh perspective. I can see it in a way that they can't see because they've been in it so much. And I arrive and I'm like, oh, this doesn't make sense. This doesn't make sense. And they're like, what do you mean? It's just how it is. And so I think there's really space for learning. And even now with DAOs, when I see how some DAOs were made, I was like, oh, I'm so glad I wasn't there. Like, and now I'm here and I can analyze everyone's mistakes. I can analyze everything people did wrong and see like what I can contribute, So I think there's absolutely no problem in being later, in, and the people who are gonna come in a year, in 2 years, we're already building things, and they're gonna see what we're building, and they're gonna be like, oof, but this is kind of weird, and I'm gonna do better, and then we're gonna be like, damn, they learned from our mistakes. So I'd say, get into crypto, get into NFTs, get into the metaverse now, and just own who you are, and own the part of the journey that you entered it, and honor the people who were before, respect them, learn from them, but also know that you have something very special and unique to offer to the space, no matter whether, you've been there for a week or 5 years,
Thanks.
Yeah, my advice would be also to try it and probe the thing. You have many possibilities, and with all type of price points. So go there and learn. Pick your partner. Choose them carefully because you want to be able to trust them and to learn with them. So it's but we're pioneers. So let's pioneer together and let's co-develop together and learn together.
I think if you're already attending this event, you're very early.
Thank you very much. Hi, Benjamin. I'm a friend that we connect on LinkedIn.
Great to meet you.
My question is, businesses are attracted to the metaverse. Currently is a lot of a facade thing where, okay, I want to be in the metaverse. I think a point you raise is about data and about how this should be useful. Indeed, metaverse is with a purpose, because I think that data should be a lot relevant, anonymous, of course, but something that we should investigate more with respect to what happens in the metaverse, because what we see currently, like in the Decentraland sandbox, is people can competing one against the other with bigger screens or bigger flats or bigger or cuter cats if you want, but we see no true, for example, value for people that are not Gen Z, as you were saying before, to come and experiment and do something. So I think data could be crucial. What do you think about this topic? Just want to know your opinion.
Purpose versus data? Purpose.
I think that if I understand correctly your question, but right now, for who drives or who's accountable for the success? Usually, it's the product manager, right? So if I compare just the responsibilities of a product manager in the Web2 space and in the Web3 space, we're just not looking at the same things. You have no data, very little data in the Web3 space. So instead of looking at data like you would do it in Web2 space, retention, ARPU, stuff like that. Instead, you're looking at quality feedback, and you're looking at network-wide data. So you're looking at like floor price, trading volumes. So you have a much more macro way of seeing, if you're actually creating value, and you have this. And you focus, again, because we're at the beginning and because we're so community-centric, you still focus very much on the qualitative feedback. So I think at the end of the day, this is the reason why this is happening like we are seeing it, why people are so enthusiastic. It's because people are excited because they see the successful project. They don't see the failing one. But the successful ones are the ones who really care about their community, about their users. And so they actually bring value. So yeah, everybody, I hear it all the time, like, oh, sandbox, it's, but it's not even accessible. But I take a lot of distance between the experience and the software. It's not because I cannot be in sandbox 24/7 outside of the alpha stages that I'm not already experiencing something, that I'm not already part of a community, which is a sub-community of a bigger one. So being part of this whole journey, of this whole experience, is also bigger than just being in the software. And I think we're starting to understand what it means, but obviously there are other communities, and I always get back to Bored Ape, where if you're an ape holder and if you're a member of the Bored Ape community, you understand what it means. There's no software. I mean, there's a technical test today, but it's not really there yet, and it will take multiple years. Still, you're part of a community. You're still experiencing something. You're enjoying. You're even getting benefits from it.
All right, let's give a big round of applause for our panelists. Oh. Thank you guys so much. Really appreciate you guys taking the time to come out here.